Hi, this is Scott Welch, Muscle Insider Magazine. We are here with three-time Miss Olympia Bikini champion, Ashley Caltwellser. How are you doing today, Ashley?
Hi, I'm doing well. I just finished a intense leg workout early today, so I'm feeling nice and energized.
So now, do you do legs 3 days a week? Did I read that right? I saw one of your programs and I saw 3 days a week you're doing legs and glutes.
Yeah, so depends on how close I am to a show or what I need to improve on, but that sounds about right. I'll do like 2 glute focused leg days and then like 1 leg day that's like a true leg day.
Okay. Okay, so take me back 2012. This is when you were at the NPC Nationals, I believe, the Team Universe, sorry. And that's when you turned pro. Tell me what was that experience like?
That was such a happy day for me. I remember I couldn't even sleep that night because I was so excited. That was like a big goal for me, just to get like my pro card. And I was like, yes, I did it. I finally did it. And I remember I had a photo shoot with JM the next morning because he does all the winners of the competition the next day. And I just remember being so freaking excited that I got my pro card that I literally couldn't even sleep. I was just up all night, just so happy.
Okay, so now in 2013, that would have been your rookie year. You won 5 pro shows. And one of those was obviously the Toronto Pro Show, which we saw you there at the time. You were with Gasperi, I believe. And you won that show. And then later on, you actually won the Olympia, defeating Natalia Melo. What was that like? I mean, for your first time at the Olympia, you actually defeat the champ. What was that like?
That was, now to date, that was the happiest moment of my life, is 2013 Olympia, because I was such an underdog. I was not expected to win. I didn't even expect to win. I was literally just happy to be at the Olympia. And I saw all these girls like from all the fitness magazines who did all these competitions that I really looked up to them. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm on the same stage as them. That's so crazy. You know, I thought in my mind, like that was like the pinnacle of my career, is just being there, you know? And it's so crazy because as they were doing like the call outs, I was not convinced I was in first call out. I was like, there's no way. I thought like, hey, they're trying something new this year. They're doing like call outs in reverse order or whatever. I was not convinced that I was in the first call out. So like, as they're calling our names and stuff, you know, they do it in reverse. They go like 5th and the 4th and 3rd. And then I realized like, once it got to the 3rd place, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. That girl was in my same call out. Maybe they're keeping it the same. Wait a minute, hold on. And then they called 2nd and I'm like, that girl was in my call out too. I was like, no way, there's no way. And then they called my name and I just bust out crying because I did not expect that at all. Like it's such a great moment for me, because it's one thing to meet your goal, but to exceed your goal, it feels 10 times better. So I was on cloud 9 and I just was in shock. I was like, there's no way. I can't believe I did it. So yes, happiest moment of my life so far. So
2013, you won the Olympia. 2014, you won the Olympia. 2015, you won the Olympia. Obviously, I'm sure there's some Arnold Classic wins in there, because we sort of usually see whoever the reigning Miss Olympia is, that kind of in bikini, it seems to be that they win all the other shows. That kind of obviously is there. But there was one curveball that in 2014, I think it was Pittsburgh Pro Show, you were 2nd. Yeah. Which was weird because at that time, and the name of it is Rashera Robles, which I hadn't heard of her. Obviously, I don't follow it as closely as you, being who you are. But what was that like? Because you would have had everyone telling you, you got this, you're the champ, you're the champ, you're the champ. What happened at that show? Did you just not peak, or what happened?
Well, actually, in every year that I've won the Olympia, there was always one show that I didn't win for one reason or another. You know, I think in 2015 it was the Arnold Australia, I think, and then one year it was also the New York Pro I didn't win. So I kind of like, you know, I never expect to win every show like that, although there are a lot of pressure from people telling you, oh, you're gonna win, you got this. But you know, I believe like that show, I wasn't quite as crispy as I should have been. I was probably a little bit off, if my memory serves me correctly. And then, Yusira was very on, and she is a great competitor. So I was like, I didn't mind losing to her. She definitely deserved it. And what's funny is that particular show, the Pittsburgh Pro, I could never win that show, right? And it took me till literally this year to win the Pittsburgh Pro. I finally won the Pittsburgh Pro this year. Yay. So yeah, funny story about that. So I'm glad I finally got the W for that.
Amazing. Okay, now then your final Olympia win was 2015. 2016, you went a different direction. You competed in no-shows except the Olympia. Now we see that in the men's open bodybuilding, where you see people with, that's the big show that they do, but we don't often see that in bikini as much. Now, do you feel that that had a contribution to you losing in 2016 because you weren't on that game, or were you just in, I know you got into Hollywood and you started to obviously become a really big celebrity, not just in fitness, but outside of that. What happened that year?
Well, so kind of, I guess, has something to do with it. I was just, I don't know, a little bit worn out, and kind of the pressure got to me, right? So there is one disadvantage of always being on top, and that's the burden of expectation. And I just felt like it was like, for me at that time, was a lot of pressure. And I just kind of, I don't know, my mind took me elsewhere, and I wasn't in it. And that's why I only competed in the Olympias, because I don't know, I was looking for like a little miniature break, I guess. And it just wasn't working for me that year. But, I guess looking back at it, like, I do regret not competing more. I think maybe that was the answer after all. Instead of taking time off, would be the opposite and do more shows to get me more motivated. But yeah, it just wasn't a good year for me. And not because I tried anything else. I mean, I did live in Hollywood for a little bit, but nothing to do with acting, or I never wanted to be an actor. I did a lot of social media stuff over there, but never went there to be an actor. But I guess also the change of scenery and new friends and new scenes can just kind of get to you as well and get you a little bit distracted.
Yeah. Did you find, I mean, you're from originally Akron, Ohio, I believe. Did you find that from there moving to LA? Because we all, as kids, we grow up saying, hey, I want to train on Muscle Beach and the Pit, and I want to live the lifestyle and go to the firehouse and Gold's and all. Did you find that that actually helped you get better? Or did you find that you actually could have done as well as you did in terms of training, nutrition, and obviously peaking with less distractions? Or what is your take on it all?
Well, probably didn't help me, that's for sure. It probably didn't help me. That's another thing too, is like being in Ohio and living there my entire life, I just felt kind of like a little bit bored with it. And I thought like maybe it'd be motivating for me to move out to like a nice area with good weather, and I can train outside whenever I wanted to, and everyone's super motivated over there. And I thought that would be a helpful thing, but actually wasn't. I guess I did better when I was just kind of at home in Ohio, super focused on what I got to do and prep and training and that, but I'm in my zone now over here in Vegas, so I definitely.
How did you transition over to Vegas? I mean, we see Sean Roden over there. We see Flex Lewis and our good friend Dave Mad Max Burley, and like so many different people making the move over to Vegas. So many people. I mean, I don't want to keep naming them, but you know who they all are. But what have you found? I mean, what made you decide to move to Las Vegas?
Well, when I was living in Los Angeles, I like Los Angeles for the weather and the atmosphere, and there's a lot of stuff to do. But honestly, I'm not an LA girl. Not my personality. I'm quite the opposite. I felt very awkward over there. I don't know. But Vegas is a great option because it's cheaper. It's also got great weather, and it's like a little fitness hotspot. So once all the craziness went down, and I saw how things were being run in California, I'm like, oh no, I gotta escape. So good thing that Las Vegas is only a 4-hour drive. So I packed up everything, bought a house here, and I'm super happy. But you're right. A lot of these fitness people are moving out here now. It's crazy. It's like fitness hotspot.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you've traveled all over the world, and we're going to get to the 30 IFBB Pro Show wins in a moment. But I saw a lot of the countries you'd been to, and I want you to just tell me maybe just a quick, funny, memorable story with a few of these places. Like you competed in Korea. What was that like?
Yeah. Korea. I love Korea. They're so technologically advanced. It's such a cool country. It's like they have all this like technology and everything's super clean and nice. And I definitely didn't fit in over there. Like I've definitely stood out like a sore thumb, but I felt very safe. It's a very safe country, you know, and I like their snacks and their desserts are like artwork. They do like the most for like a cookie or something and make it all like artistic. It's almost like you don't want to eat it. But yeah, I have great memories of Korea. You know, all good memories. They're very nice over there, very enthusiastic in Korea.
Russia. Were you ever
Russia.
scared?
Oh,
Do
I
you
have
need
a
to
funny
hear all
story
these
about
stories?
Russia. Oh gosh. So Russia, goodness gracious. I remember freaking out because once I landed, I realized I didn't bring my contact lenses. I have really bad vision, right? So I wear glasses or have to wear contacts. And my vision's very, very bad to where I can't just ask somebody at a show like, hey, do you have spare contacts? You know? So here in America, we have to have prescription for our contacts in order to get them. And you have to order them like in advance. And it's a whole big deal. But in Russia, you go to their pharmacy and they're like, yeah, sure, here you go. You don't need any documentation or IDs. And I'm like, oh God, thank goodness, because I wouldn't be able to see on stage. I would have to wear either glasses, which it's not a good look for a bikini, you know, when you're doing everything, or I would just have to be basically blind on stage. So thank God that they're very lenient with that kind of stuff over there. And then also I remember the car that was driving us to the hotel, like got pulled over by the cops in Russia. And I'm like, what's going on? What do we even do? And they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll just give them money and they'll go away. So you can see, I guess that's how it works over there. Like they didn't do anything wrong, but the cops pulled them over anyway, and just you give them money and they go away. They don't give you a ticket. I guess so. Interesting stuff, but yeah.
Finland. Any crazy
Finland.
stories of Finland?
Oh, cold. Very. I remember it being kind of cold. I remember giving an awesome seminar over there, and yeah, that was a good show for the competition because I remember like I think my waist was the tiniest it's ever been when I competed in Finland for some reason, but it was a good country to visit. Not a lot to do after it got like past 5 though. It was kind of like ghost town.
Okay, New Zealand.
New Zealand. Oh, I liked New Zealand a lot better than Australia. I feel like Australia is very much like the USA. Well, for the parts I saw of it, but New Zealand was so pretty. It was definitely much of a different scenery than Australia was. Well, from what I visited, and I like their accents over there too in New Zealand, the Kiwi.
Okay, and obviously we wouldn't doing any service if we didn't talk about Canada, because you were at the Toronto Pro Show and the Vancouver Pro Show. What were your experiences like at both of those shows?
Man, I gotta say, the stereotype of Canadians being very friendly and polite, it's true. I felt very welcomed and everybody was so nice to me. I remember it being such an epic stage, and it was such a moment, right? It felt like a miniature Olympia in a way, just how everything was like set up, and it was like so epic. And I got some awesome stage photos from that show. So good time.
What was amazing to me was at the Vancouver Pro Backstage, you had a videographer with you taking footage and interviewing you. And then we did an interview, and I was trying to interview different people backstage before they went outside because it was bored. We were waiting, 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, there's different people. And almost no one was willing to throw off their, hey, I've got to go outside in a moment. You were like, right on, let's do it right now. And everyone else was standing there with the rubber bands, they're pumping up their shoulders, and you're doing a full on interview like we're doing now. How important is publicity in the Ashley Caltwellser brand and building your brand up? Because we hear your podcast and we see you constantly doing creating content with, somersaults on beaches and just the wackiest cool. I saw you do the handstand where you went into a BMW upside down and crawled into this. Like, how important is that in building your brand, is publicity, PR, and things like that?
Yeah, I think it's super helpful and important because, as you probably already can assume, most of competitors make most of their money off the stage than on it.
Yeah.
But I just kind of like take advantage of the moment too. I always say never let a good opportunity go to waste. Like take all the good opportunities that come your way, even if they are a little bit inconvenient, take them, because you never know where that's going to lead you, right? So maybe that interview backstage led us to this interview. You don't know that.
Sure.
And then maybe this interview will lead us to something else. So you never know. But, you know, I think it's especially when we're kind of living in this unique time where we're competing, and it's why not take those opportunities and look back on that interview in like 10 years and be like, I remember that one interview, you know. I think it's really cool, but it does definitely help build the brand, because, you know, I think our sport, you know, it's very visual, and, you know, you look at physiques and you see how they train, but sometimes you don't get to know that person as well, just because you're focused on like the physical part of it, the physique. But we have personalities too, you know, hey. So I think it's kind of cool to show the human side of us, and maybe somebody out there can connect with something I say or resonate with something I say. And that can kind of take them in a different place and be like, you know what, she has the same mindset as me. I wonder, you know, maybe I should start competing. You know, I like the way she goes about things. Who knows? You never know who's watching and who you can inspire. So I always think of that.
In your podcast, Bikini in the Brain, which for those at home who don't watch or listen to this episode, definitely gotta subscribe to that podcast. You talk in March 2020, one of the episodes, about the evolution of bikini from the beginning, how the physiques have changed. Can you take us through that in terms of what you have seen, obviously since turning pro in 2012 to now, which is almost 11 years now?
Right. So first, I gotta say the biggest contributor to the physiques evolving in bikini is the talent pool is much deeper, right? So I remember in 2013 at the Olympia, I want to say like 90% of those girls are from the USA. And now if you take a look, oh gosh, it might be creeping up 50-50. And there's just so much more talent these days. And with more talent brings better physiques, you know? So you'll see smaller waists and wider hips, and, you know, everything has to be super, super on point. Whereas like, you know, maybe back in 2013, I could have gotten away with having minimal shoulder development because the talent, there wasn't as much as there is today. So in a way, it's kind of like the way I evolved is I just have to kind of keep with the times and pay attention to all the new trends, but improve my physique as well. Because if I competed with my 2013 physique that I won the Olympia with, I wouldn't even place, or I wouldn't even have a shot of going to Olympia now, right? Because I was just not as muscular, you know, especially up top, my legs didn't quite match my upper body, but at the time that was the best they had. So, you know, it's all about who shows up and who is competing in these shows, right? And we have much bigger reach now to all these different countries than we did years ago.
Now, in terms of your brand, one of the things that's really been fascinating is you continuously competing and competing and competing. There's the other camp that believes that, hey, you got to get your Olympia qualification and then you have to give it for somebody else. And there's some people who've taken some flack lately for competing in more than one show. But tell me your perspective on that in terms of our, you know, people saying, hey, because you're qualified for life as a Olympia champion 3-time. What do you say to those people who hate on you for competing so much?
I say, keep hating, because the more you hate, the more I'm going to compete. In fact, that was one of the reasons I compete so much this year. Like, oh, you don't want to see me compete that much? I'll compete twice as much now. I love it. Tell me more. Tell me more. I'm not here to make friends. No, I'm here to be a freaking legend. So I'm going to compete as much as I want. And I love every single moment of it, for real. I think it's crazy how people actually think that by them telling me or display dissatisfaction that I compete so much that I'm just gonna like step aside for them. Like, no, that's not how it works. I think there's this delusion that the Olympia is somehow meant to let's qualify as much people as possible. No, that's not what the Olympia is. It's a prestigious, it is the most prestigious show. Okay. So let's not have the attitude of, let's see how many people can compete in there. No. And let's be quite honest, bikini is always the most, there's the most competitors in the bikini division at the Olympia in comparison to, let's say, bodybuilding or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they're blaming me for not qualifying, then they just need to get better, work harder. I don't know. I don't compete in every single show. Keep that in mind, right?
Yeah.
So there's many opportunities for them to win or go through the point system. Because let me tell you something, even though competitions didn't have as much talent as they do now, in 2013, it was still hard for me to qualify, right? Nobody's going to hand you a qualification just like, here you go. Here's an easy qualification for you. No, you got to work for it. And I'm sure as heck not stepping back just so you could get in there easy. I don't owe that to you. Like, F that. No. Like, I don't care about these weak-minded people. It's for the birds, whatever. It's motivating for me, though. I'm like, tell me more. I'll compete more. I'm just getting started. It's warm up.
Okay, so 30 wins. That ties Dexter Jackson.
29.
29. Okay.
Yeah.
We got to get 30 to be the champion. Okay.
Yes.
And the next show that you're competing at is the Arnold Sports Festival.
Yes.
Okay. So that, and then obviously, will we see you at the Olympia?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we have Olympia. Is there any other pro shows in mind? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm just getting started.
You're getting started.
You.
Okay. So there's no chance that you're not gonna, yeah. Okay.
It's like the warm up, you know? Well, after the Olympia, I'll probably do the Legion Sports Fest, maybe a few other ones that are local to kind of like the California area. But some exciting ones that I'm going to go to as well would be, I'm going to do the Romania Pro Show overseas. Nice. So I'm doing like a whole Europe tour where I'm doing like a seminar, and then I'll compete there too. So I'm going to Romania and Spain. And here's the thing. All right. So after Spain, I'm flying back into Ohio to visit my family. And I'm thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Ohio is very close to Toronto. And if I'm really feeling crazy, I might just compete in the Toronto Pro as my last show, because why the heck not? I'll already be in shape and I can just drive up there. It's a 4-hour drive. So that is also on the table. Hopefully I can do that. I just don't want to speak too soon, because after 2 shows back to back in a row overseas, I might be so worn out that I'm just like, oh my God, because there's one thing to do 2 shows back to back, but I'm questioning the overseas part in traveling, if that's going to make it even more challenging. I might be more burnt out. So we'll see. But I want to, though. It's more likely than not that I'm going to be honest.
Okay. So recently, you actually did something that I'm not aware of any other bodybuilders or fitness competitors or figure, bikini, anything wellness ever having done, which is you competed in 2 pro shows in the same weekend and you won one of those pro shows. What was that whole thing like?
That was such a crazy experience. Like I'm one of those crazy people that I just like to challenge myself, right? I'll do crazy stuff like that. It wouldn't surprise me if I ever tried to do like a show one day and the next day do like a marathon or something. I'm crazy like that. I'm like, give me a new challenge. I want to try. So it just so happens that both these shows lined up so perfectly to where I can. I don't know if they'll ever line up like this ever again, but Texas was on a Friday night and then Tahoe was Sunday morning, and 2 different time zones, two different states, 2 different shows. And I was like, oh, I got to at least try, because if I didn't, I would be sitting there thinking, man, what if I tried to do 2 shows in one weekend? It's like kind of a cool thing to say, right? Just to say you even just did it. So I had to try, and it worked out really well. I actually held on to my physique a lot better than I thought I would. And the travel didn't really affect me. So I will say though, oh gosh, it took me to literally till today to like recover from that last weekend. Cause it's like I just was so drained, like lack of sleep and the jet lag and just, anytime you compete in a show, it's very draining. Even if I'm not like flexing on stage like a bodybuilder, it's very like emotionally draining, and you're just using all the adrenaline and serotonin. And the next day you just feel like, oh my God. But yeah, I was pretty worn out after that. I just now feel normal again.
Okay, so you're sponsored by a lot of different companies. High Tech Pharmaceuticals, phenomenal company, one of the biggest in the industry. Manufacture their own products. We actually did a whole tour of their facility, and we have a lot of respect for them. What is that like being sponsored by High Tech?
Oh, they are seriously the best. They are so supportive. They love to see me compete. Mm-hmm. It's not like one of these extra mainstream brands that only focuses on that market, that audience.
Yeah.
I think what's great about High Tech is they're like, yeah, we're bodybuilding focused. And for that, I love it because they just love to see me compete. They are super supportive. Like I said, they take care of my travel expenses for everything, anything associated with the show, they got my back for. So that is one of the reasons why I can compete in like all these shows is because of them. So I'm super thankful. They are the best and I'm very lucky to have them.
What are your favorite products that they make?
I like their precision protein, Neapolitan flavor. They make some bomb proteins, but their Neapolitan flavor protein is just like, oh my God, how is this even healthy? Because it does taste like the ice cream.
Mesomorph pre-workout isn't too bad either.
It's all good, really. I like their pre-workouts too. Yeah.
Always got some strong stuff. Now, in terms of, I mean, with the sponsorship, I mean, you have, I'm sure, companies all the time approaching you, from bikini companies to cookie companies. You're always putting something together. But if you weren't sponsored by these companies, what does it cost a year to maintain the physique that you maintain and compete at the level that you compete at? Like, if you had to estimate, is that like massage therapy, training, meal prep? Like, there's so much there.
Well, probably like let's say I compete for this year, I competed in 10 shows already. That's just so far. So let's say somebody else were to compete in 10 shows and kind of do everything I do as far as training, diet, everything. Gosh, it would probably be like 60 to 75,000, I would want to say. Maybe. It's hard to say because I don't know prices of like training and stuff either. But if I were to guess, but what I can say is, even like, let's say what I do know is the cost of competing, because I have to send in like my receipts to High Tech and stuff. What I can say is if it's like a local show, like maybe it's somewhere in California, where I can just like drive or just fly in like the day before without fear of water retention or anything like that. Even those shows are like 1,500. As far as like receipts, travel and everything like that. But if I'm going overseas, it's sometimes 3,000 to 3,500 because of the international travel and the hotel. And you have to get in there a little bit earlier because you don't want to be all watery on stage. So it's pretty expensive if you look at it like that, you know? So yeah, that's why I'm super thankful to be in the position I am. I'm very lucky and I never forget it. I never take the small things for granted, even if it's something like a free spray tan, like, you know, because I never will forget my first sponsorship with my spray tan company. It was for free spray tans, and that excitement that I got from a free spray tan. And, you know, and now I've done that and much more, and I get all this free stuff and all these great opportunities, but I never forget like that feeling. And I think that's super important to keep, you know, when you win too. I always say like every time I win, it feels like the first win I've ever had. So it's like, you got to keep that in mind. Keep in mind every, you know, sponsor that helped you along the way, and never forget the feeling of your first win, because that's something that most people will never experience in their life. So always got to keep that in mind.
So I understand your trainer gave you a free car for winning 3 pro shows. Tell us about that. I mean, because we're talking about free here.
Yeah. So I am not materialistic at all. I don't own nice things just because it doesn't appeal to me. I've never had a nice car. And as an incentive, my coach said, you know, Ashley, if you win 3 shows this year, I'll give you the car. So I did, and he lived up to his word. And I'm like, wow, I finally have a nice car. Awesome. Yeah. And he also said, now this is a stretch, this is a reach, but if I were to win the Olympia, he'd pay off my house too. So like, that would be kind of cool, but that'd be hard to do. If I get to 100 shows, I joke with him. I'm like, hey, if I win 100 shows, you buy me a yacht. I don't know what I would do with the yacht. It's just a joke, but he's very generous, and he does like little things like that to motivate me. So it's awesome.
I find it interesting just watching your social media and seeing some of the stuff that you do. You really are transparent with your fans. I mean, when you got your teeth done, you called it your grill or whatever, and you talked about that. And it's like, why would she admit that she had her teeth done? Like, you know, obviously we just expect the people who are at your level to always have this or always have that. And you never really look closely at the teeth and say, are those real or not? Right. But have you always been doing that in terms of being transparent why are you as transparent as you are? I mean, I hate to say it like that, but is that
Yeah.
part of who you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. Like, what is the secret? Why do I have to hide it? You know, I mean,
Sure.
I think like a lot of people are very hush hush about things. I'm just like, I'll tell you, like, or if I don't do well at a show, I'll tell you why. I'll be like, yeah, I messed up. You know, I think it's very important to be like that, because I don't know, I feel like there's many people out there that might be able to connect with me in some way, or resonate with me, or were curious about anything. I'll just say it. You know, I have nothing to hide really, so why not?
Okay. With your gymnastics background in track and field, do you currently incorporate gymnastics type of moves in any of your training, or is that just totally something we see you do the moves on, and then that's just sort of what you do just for fun for a video, or is that part, do you incorporate
Oh,
that in your training?
I just do it for the gram. I don't
Okay.
do it in training. Actually gives my coach a heart attack, you know. He gets nervous for me because he's like, oh, what if you sprain your ankle and then you can't compete? So I gotta be reserved around him when I do it, but I do gymnastics every once in a while just for fun, just to see if I can still do it. Yeah, handstands and stuff like that. It's all fun.
Cool. How has your family been? Supportive? I mean, back home, are they still back home and seeing sort of what you've done and how famous you've got and all the shows that you're doing, and they must be pretty proud?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very proud, and they don't travel, right? They're like afraid of traveling
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're just homebodies, right? My dad's never been on an airplane, you know.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, so they'll watch me and they'll keep up with me via like videos. They'll probably come across this one too, and then be like, call me and say, Ashley, I loved your interview. So yeah, they keep up with me like that. But I will be visiting them a few times this year before the Arnold, and then after my Europe trip. So yeah, they're very proud.
Very cool. So we haven't seen the end of your contest streak. This is just the beginning. Really, really happy. I hope we do see you up at the Toronto Pro Show in December, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's like the
That
last
would
show
be
of the
really
year.
cool. Yeah, and obviously there's a huge following that you have, obviously close to Canada from the stuff that you've done in the past. But that's a great show, and it definitely would be really cool to see you there. Listen, thanks so much for taking the time. Obviously, I really appreciate it. And for those of you who want to go, for the fans out there who want to go and find out more about you and some of the things you do, what is the best way for them to dial in with Ashley Caltwellser?
So I'm on Instagram, Ashley K Fit, and also on YouTube, Ashley Kaltwasser with a K.
There we go. Thanks again, Ashley. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.